Du Hyun stared through the massive window of the Galactic Military Academy's main hall. Earth looked small from here, a blue marble floating in the darkness of space. He pressed his hand against the cold glass, feeling the same gravity as his home planet, a special feature of the human wing of the Academy. Still homesick? Jae-yun's voice came from behind him. She walked up, her cadet uniform perfectly pressed, her boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. Not homesick, Du Hyun said, turning to face his fellow cadet. Just thinking about what we have to prove. Tae-young joined them, carrying his datapad. His usually calm face showed signs of excitement. Have you seen the new assignment postings? We're in for something big. The three human cadets gathered around Tae-young's datapad. The screen showed their names listed together for the annual inter-species combat exercise. This wasn't just any training. It was the most important test of their first year. They'd put all the humans together, Jae-yun said, her eyes scanning the list. Look at the other teams. They're all mixed species. Do Hyun understood what this meant. The Academy was testing them, or rather, testing what humans could do. Earth was called a death world because of its high gravity and extreme conditions. Many alien species thought this made humans primitive and aggressive. The main hall began to fill with other cadets. Tall, elegant beings with shimmering skin walked past them. Others floated on anti-gravity platforms or moved on multiple legs. Among them all, the humans looked plain and simple. A group of cadets stopped near them. Their leader, Ha-won, was from one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. Her silver skin reflected the starlight from the windows. Oh, look, Ha-won said, her universal translator making her words clear but cold. The Deathworlders got their assignment. Try not to break anything expensive during the exercise. Her group laughed, their different species making various sounds of amusement. Du Hyun kept his face calm, but he felt his hands tighten into fists. Thank you for your concern, Jae-yun said politely. We'll do our best to make the exercise interesting. Before anyone could say more, the Academy's AI announced the arrival of Commander Ryuk. All cadets stood straight as the commander entered. His species was known for their strict military tradition, and his 4 eyes scanned the room carefully. Cadets, Commander Ryuk's voice boomed through the hall. This year's inter-species combat exercise will test your ability to command a fleet against our most advanced AI opponent. You will use simulators to control your ships. Each team must develop their own strategy. The commander's top eyes focused on the human team. Some of you may find the technology challenging. Remember, this exercise tests your ability to adapt and overcome. Do Hyun knew what the commander meant. Humans couldn't link directly with the ships like some species could. They couldn't process information as fast as others. But they had something else, something that had helped them survive on their dangerous world. After the briefing, the 3 humans went to their assigned simulation room. It was smaller than the others, with simple controls instead of the neural interfaces other species used. They think we're going to fail, Tae-young said, studying the control panel. Then they don't know Earth's history very well, Jae-yun replied, a small smile on her face. We've always done best when people underestimate us. Do Hyun looked at his teammates, feeling the surge of determination. Let's show them what Deathworlders can do. Not with fancy technology, but with something they don't expect, human creativity. As they began to plan their approach, news spread through the Academy about the strange human team. Other cadets came to watch them practice, expecting to see failure. Instead, they saw 3 humans working together with quiet focus, preparing for something no one expected. The exercise would begin in 1 week. It would be the first time in 50 years that humans participated. No team had ever beaten the AI fleet, but then again, no team had ever thought like humans did. The Academy was about to learn why Earth's history was full of unexpected victories, and why underestimating humans was always a mistake. The simulation room's lights dimmed as Jae-yun pulled up the historical records of the inter-species combat exercise. Du Hyun and Tai Young sat beside her, watching the holographic display show 50 years of attempts to defeat the AI fleet. "No one has ever won," Tai Young said, his voice quiet in the darkroom. "Not even the most advanced species." Do Hyun leaned forward, studying the moving ships on the display. "Look at how they all fight the same way. Every team tries to use the most advanced technology to outsmart the AI." Jae-yun nodded, her fingers moving through the recordings. "They all connect their brains directly to their ships. They think faster computing will beat the AI's computing. But that's like trying to beat a bird at flying," Do Hyun said, standing up to walk around the hologram. "We need to think differently." The door opened, and Commander Ryuk entered with his 4 eyes scanning the room. The cadets stood at attention, but the commander waved them back to their work. "I see you're studying past failures," he said, his translator making his voice sound metallic. "Perhaps you should practice with the basic controls instead. Your species will find them challenging enough." After the commander left, Tai Young pulled up Earth's historical naval battles on their screen. "Look at this," he said, pointing to ancient ships moving through water. "Before we had spaceships, we fought on oceans." Admiral V. Sun Sin, Jae-yun read from the display. "He won battles against larger fleets by using the water and weather instead of better ships." Do Hyun's eyes lit up. "That's it. The AI fleet thinks in straight lines, like a computer. But space isn't just empty. It has gravity wells, radiation fields, and dust clouds." They spent the next 3 days studying every space battle in the exercise's history. While other teams practiced with their neural interfaces, the humans mapped patterns. They found something interesting. The AI always followed the most logical path. "It's like a perfect chess player," Jae-yun explained during their meal break. "It knows every good move, but it doesn't understand why someone would make a bad move on purpose." In the main training hall, they watched how one's team practice. Their neural links let them control their ships like parts of their bodies. It was impressive, but Do Hyun noticed something. "They're fighting the AI's strength," he whispered to his teammates. "They're trying to process information faster than the best computer in the galaxy." That evening, they tried something different in their simulator. Instead of linking with their ships, they used simple controls. They practiced moving their fleet in ways that looked wrong, ways that broke all the rules of modern space combat. "The AI will expect us to fight like everyone else," Tae Young said, working on calculations. "It's been winning the same way for 50 years because everyone fights the same way." Other cadets came to watch them practice. They laughed at the humans using manual controls instead of neural links. Even the instructors shook their heads at their seemingly primitive methods. But slowly, the humans began to see patterns in the AI's responses. When ships moved in unexpected ways, the AI took longer to react. When tactics seemed illogical, the AI's responses became more predictable. "It's like teaching a chess computer that the best move isn't always the perfect move," Jae-yun said, drawing diagrams of their planned formations. At the end of the week, Commander Ryuk returned to check their progress. He watched silently as they ran their unusual maneuvers in the simulator. "Interesting," he said finally. "You're not trying to be faster than the AI." "No, sir," Do Hyun replied. "We're trying to be more human than the AI." The commander's top eyes narrowed while his bottom eyes widened, a sign of curiosity in his species. He left without another word, but the cadets felt something had changed. They weren't just the primitive Deathworlders anymore. They were becoming something the Academy had never seen before, humans who turned their limitations into strengths. As they finished their day's practice, news came that the exercise would begin sooner than planned. They had 3 days left to perfect their strategy. The galaxy's most advanced fleet was waiting, and 3 humans from Earth were about to show everyone why being underestimated was their greatest advantage. Do Hyun stood in front of the holographic display, moving ships into position with hand gestures. The blue lights from the simulation cast shadows on his focused face. Jae-yun and Tai Young watched as he recreated one of Admiral Yi's famous naval formations. The turtle ships, Du-hyun explained, pointing to the central vessels. They looked slow and weak, but they were strong. The enemy never knew their true strength until it was too late. Jae-yun stepped forward, adjusting the formation. We can do the same thing in space. Look here. She moved their simulated ships into a pattern that looked scattered and disorganized. We'll appear weak, just like the other teams expect. Tae-young worked at his console, entering calculations. The AI has patterns, he said, showing graphs on his screen. Every time it wins, it follows the same basic steps. First, it tests for weaknesses. Then it attacks the strongest ships. Finally, it surrounds what's left. Perfect, Du-hyun said, smiling. Then we'll give it exactly what it expects to see. They spent the next day programming their ships to move in ways that seemed clumsy. Each movement was carefully planned to look like mistakes made by inexperienced commanders. But hidden in these apparent errors was their real strategy. During their practice, Hadwon's team came to observe. They stood at the back of the room, their silver skin glowing in the dim light. Such a waste of time, Hadwon said loudly. They can't even use neural links properly. How do they expect to command a fleet? The humans ignored the comments and continued their work. Jae-yun adjusted their formation again, making it look even more disorganized. But there was a pattern hidden in the chaos, something they had learned from Earth's history. Admiral Yi never had the best ships, Du-hyun said quietly to his team. He never had the most advanced weapons, but he won because he understood something important. The sea itself was his greatest weapon. And space will be ours, Tae-young added, showing new calculations. Gravity wells, radiation fields, asteroid fields. The AI sees them as obstacles. We'll use them as weapons. Commander Ryuk returned that afternoon. He watched silently as the humans practiced their unusual maneuvers. Their ships moved slowly, seemingly without purpose, but they were always in perfect position to use the natural features of space to their advantage. Your strategy, the commander said finally, it appears flawed. Yes, sir, Jae-yun replied politely. That's exactly what we want everyone to think. The commander's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought in his species. You're not trying to match the AI's perfection. You're doing something else entirely. In Earth's history, Du-hyun explained, the greatest victories often came when enemies underestimated us. They saw what they expected to see, not what was really there. As the commander left, the team returned to their practice. They worked late into the night, refining their plan. Their ships would look weak and scattered, drawing the AI fleet into a trap. The same trap that had worked countless times in Earth's naval battles. It's not about having better technology, Jae-yun said as they finished their practice. It's about using what we have in ways no one expects. The next morning, news spread through the academy. The exercise would begin the following day. Other teams made final adjustments to their neural interfaces and quantum computers. The humans simply sat in their simulation room, moving ships in their slow, seemingly clumsy patterns. Tomorrow, Du-hyun said to his team, we show them why Earth's history is full of unexpected victories. Why being underestimated is sometimes the greatest advantage of all. As they left the simulation room that evening, they saw respect in the eyes of a few instructors. These teachers had studied Earth's history. They knew that sometimes the most dangerous opponent was the one that appeared weakest. Tomorrow, the entire academy would learn this lesson. The first day of the exercise began poorly for the human team. In their initial simulation, the AI fleet destroyed half their ships within the first 10 minutes. Du-hyun sat in his command chair, watching as their carefully planned formation fell apart. Something's wrong, Jae-yun said, her hands moving quickly over the manual controls. The AI isn't responding the way we expected. Tae-young checked his calculations again. It's learning faster than we thought. It's not following its usual patterns. From the observation deck above, other cadets watched their failure with obvious satisfaction. Hadwan's voice carried clearly through the speakers. See, this is what happens when primitives try to fight without proper neural interfaces. Commander Ryuk stood silently at the back of the observation deck, all four eyes focused on the human team. He watched as they regrouped after their defeat, speaking quietly among themselves. "We made a basic mistake," Do-hyun said to his team, studying the replay of their failed attempt. "We tried to be too clever too quickly. Look at how the AI responded. It saw through our fake weakness immediately." Jae-yun nodded, making notes on her datapad. "We need to be more subtle." Admiral Yi didn't show all his strategies in his first battle. He built his reputation slowly. They tried again. This time, they moved their ships in a more conventional way, only occasionally showing hints of their real strategy. The AI still defeated them, but it took longer, 20 minutes instead of 10. "Progress," Tae-young said, reviewing the data. "The AI spent more time analyzing our movements. It wasn't sure what we were doing." Throughout the day, other teams took their turns against the AI fleet. Most performed as expected, using their advanced technology to fight directly against the AI's superior computing power. Hadwan's team did particularly well, lasting 45 minutes before their defeat. "That's how proper space combat should look," one instructor said, pointing to Hadwan's complex maneuvers. "Clean, efficient, logical." The human team watched these battles carefully. They noticed something important. Every team that used advanced technology fought exactly as the AI expected. Their neural interfaces made them think like computers, and the AI was the best computer of all. During their third attempt, Do-hyun tried something different. "Let's make some real mistakes," he suggested. "Not fake ones. Let's actually fail at some things." His teammates looked confused, but they trusted him. They deliberately mishandled some maneuvers, letting their ships drift slightly out of formation. The AI responded predictably, moving to exploit these weaknesses. But this time, something was different. "Look at the response time," Tae-young said excitedly. "When we make genuine mistakes, the AI follows standard protocols. It's not looking for tricks because it thinks it understands what we're doing." Commander Ryuk approached their simulation room after this attempt. "Your performance today has been inconsistent," he said, choosing his words carefully. "Yes, sir," Do-hyun replied. "We're still learning." The commander's top eyes narrowed. "Learning what, exactly?" "How to fail." "Learning how the AI thinks, sir," Jae-yun explained. "Sometimes you have to lose a few battles to understand how to win the war." As the first day of exercises ended, the human team stayed late in their simulation room. They reviewed every failure, every mistake, every response from the AI. Slowly, a new pattern emerged. "The AI doesn't just predict our actions," Do-hyun said, pointing to their data. "It predicts what it thinks we'll do based on what everyone else does. But we're not like everyone else." Tae-young smiled, understanding dawning on his face. "So if we want to win, we need to be exactly what we are," Jae-yun finished. "Unpredictable humans who make mistakes, take risks, and don't think like computers." As they left the simulation room that night, their failures felt less like defeats and more like steps toward victory. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, they would show the Academy why humans had survived on their dangerous world, not by being perfect, but by learning from every failure. Jae-yun sat alone in the simulation room early the next morning, reviewing recordings of the AI's battles from the past 50 years. The soft glow of the holographic display illuminated her focused expression. Something about the AI's behavior bothered her, but she couldn't identify what it was. The door opened quietly as Do-hyun and Tae-young entered, carrying their morning meals. They found their teammates surrounded by floating displays of battle formations and ship movements. "You've been here all night?" Do-hyun asked, setting a drink beside her. "I needed to understand something," Jae-yun replied, her eyes not leaving the displays. "Watch this battle from 20 years ago. See how the AI responds to this unusual maneuver." They watched as an alien fleet attempted an unconventional attack. The AI's response was swift and devastating, eliminating the threat with perfect efficiency. "Now watch this," Jai-Yun said, pulling up yesterday's simulation. "Look at how the AI responded when we made those genuine mistakes." Tae-Young leaned forward, his food forgotten. "The response is different. It's slower, more cautious." "Exactly," Jai-Yun said, standing up with excitement. "The AI cannot understand truly illogical decisions. When someone makes an unusual but calculated move, it responds perfectly. But when we make genuine human mistakes, it hesitates." Do-hyun finished, understanding dawning on his face, "because it can't determine if we're being brilliant or foolish." Commander Ryuk entered the room as they discussed their discovery. His 4 eyes took in the displayed battles, and he remained silent, listening to their conversation. "In all of Earth's history," Jai-Yun explained to her teammates, "our greatest victories often came from decisions that seemed completely illogical to our opponents. The AI has the same weakness. It cannot comprehend choices that have no clear strategic value, like sacrificing a stronger ship to save a weaker one," Tae-Young suggested, "or appearing to retreat in disarray, only to lead the enemy into a trap," Do-hyun added, thinking of Admiral Yi's tactics. Commander Ryuk stepped forward, making his presence known. "You believe you can defeat the most advanced military AI ever created by making mistakes?" "Not exactly, sir," Jai-Yun replied respectfully. "We believe we can defeat it by being human, by making decisions no logical being would ever make, but which might work anyway." The commander's top eyes narrowed while his lower ones widened, a sign of deep thought. "Show me," he said simply. They ran a new simulation, this time embracing their human nature fully. When the AI attacked, they responded with maneuvers that seemed random but contained hidden purpose. Their ships moved in ways that defied conventional military logic, yet somehow maintained strategic advantage. The simulation lasted longer than any of their previous attempts. Though they still lost, the AI's responses showed clear signs of hesitation and confusion. "We found its weakness," Tae-Young said as they reviewed the data. "The AI expects everyone to fight like it does, logically, efficiently, perfectly. But humans don't fight that way. We take risks. We make choices based on instinct and emotion. And sometimes," Do-hyun added, "the best strategy is one that appears to make no sense at all." As news of their improved performance spread through the academy, other cadets came to observe their practice. Even Ha-Won watched silently from the observation deck, her silver skin reflecting the light of their battle displays. "Tomorrow is the final day of exercises," Commander Ryuk announced before leaving. "Your discovery is interesting. But remember, no team has ever defeated this AI. Not in 50 years of attempts." The human team exchanged determined looks as the commander left. They had found something no other team had discovered in 5 decades, the AI's fundamental inability to understand human nature. That evening, they developed their final strategy. It would appear chaotic, illogical, and completely unstable to both the AI and their observers. But hidden within this apparent disorder was a plan that only humans could have conceived. "Tomorrow," Jai-Yun said as they finished their preparations, "we show them why Earth's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our ability to do the unexpected, even when it seems foolish." Do-hyun stood alone in the Academy's observation deck, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath the station. The final exercise would begin in less than 12 hours. Despite their recent progress, doubt weighed heavily on his mind. The door slid open behind him. Commander Ryuk entered, his 4 eyes reflecting the blue glow of Earth below. "You should be resting, cadet," he said, his translator making his voice sound metallic in the quiet room. "I was thinking about Earth's history, sir," Do-hyun replied. "About how many times we failed before succeeding." The commander moved to stand beside him. "Your species has an unusual relationship with failure. Most advanced civilizations avoid it. Humans seem to embrace it. We learned from it, Do-hyun explained. Each failure teaches us something new. But tomorrow, failure means proving everyone right about humans being primitive. In the simulation room, Jae-yun and Tae-young were still working. Holographic displays showed their planned formations, each one designed to appear chaotic while hiding careful planning. The pressure is affecting him, Jae-yun said quietly, noticing Do-hyun's absence. He feels responsible for representing Earth. Tae-young nodded, adjusting their tactical displays. We all do. The other species have been spacefaring for thousands of years. We're still new to the stars. News had spread through the academy about the human team's unusual approach. Some instructors came to observe their final practice session, their expressions showing mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Their strategy appears completely unstable, one instructor noted. It defies all established principles of space combat. Perhaps that is the point, another replied, watching as the humans ran through their preparations. Late that night, the team gathered for one final review. Do-hyun had returned, his expression more determined than before. Commander Ryuk told me something interesting, he said to his teammates. He said that in 50 years, no team has ever tried to beat the AI by being different. They all tried to be perfect. Jae-yun smiled, understanding. And we're not trying to be perfect. We're trying to be human, Tae-young finished, with all our flaws and unexpected decisions. They reviewed their strategy one last time. Their ships would move in ways that seemed random, even foolish. They would make apparent mistakes that were actually careful traps. Every illogical decision would serve a hidden purpose. The other teams think we're going to embarrass ourselves, Jae-yun said, looking at their battle plan. They expect us to fail because we're not using neural interfaces or quantum computers. Let them think that, Do-hyun replied. Admiral Jae won his greatest victory when his enemy thought he was weak and foolish. As they prepared to leave for the night, Ha-won appeared at their door. Her silver skin gleamed in the dim light of the simulation room. I came to wish you luck, she said, surprising them. Your approach is primitive and will likely fail, but it is interesting. After she left, the team shared a knowing look. Even this small acknowledgement showed that their unusual strategy had caught attention. Tomorrow, Do-hyun said to his team, we show them that being primitive isn't a weakness. Being human isn't a flaw. They left the simulation room together, walking through the quiet halls of the academy. Tomorrow would test not just their strategy, but their belief in human capability. They carried with them the weight of Earth's history, a history of underdogs and unexpected victories. The stars shone brightly through the station's windows, reminding them of how far humans had come from their dangerous world. Tomorrow, they would show the galaxy why Earth's children had survived and thrived on their harsh planet. Not because they were perfect, but because they were perfectly human. The main simulation chamber of the Galactic Military Academy buzzed with excitement on the final day of exercises. Large screens showed the battle arena where each team would face the AI fleet. Commander Ryuk stood at the center of the control room, his 4 eyes scanning the gathered crowd. The final exercise will begin with Ha-won's team, he announced. Each team will have one attempt to defeat the AI fleet. There will be no second chances. Do-hyun, Jae-yun, and Tae-young watched from their position at the back of the room as Ha-won's team connected to their neural interfaces. Their silver skin glowed with energy as they linked their minds directly to their ships. Watch carefully, Jae-yun whispered to her teammates. Their performance will set the expectations for everyone. Ha-won's team moved with incredible precision. Their ships flowed through space like dancers, each movement perfectly calculated. The AI responded with its usual efficiency, but the advanced team held their ground. 40 minutes, Tae-young noted quietly. 50 minutes, they're setting a new record. The crowd grew excited as Ha-won's team passed the 1-hour mark. No team had ever lasted this long against the AI. Their neural interfaces allowed them to react at computer speed, matching the eye's movements with remarkable skill. But in the end, even their advanced technology wasn't enough. At 1 hour and 10 minutes, the AI found a pattern in their movements and exploited it. Their fleet was destroyed with mechanical precision. A remarkable performance, Commander Ryuk announced, the best in the Academy's history. Other teams followed, each using their most advanced technology to fight the AI. None matched HFY's time, but all fought with the perfect logic and efficiency expected of modern space combat. Finally, it was the human team's turn. The room grew quiet as they walked to their simple control stations. No neural interfaces, no quantum computers, just basic controls and screens. "This should be amusing," someone in the crowd whispered. "The primitives are going to embarrass themselves." Do-hyun took his position at the command station. Jae-yun and Tae-young sat at their controls, their hands steady despite the pressure. They exchanged a single look, remembering all their preparation. "Begin," Commander Ryuk ordered. The human fleet appeared scattered and disorganized from the start. Ships moved in seemingly random patterns, some drifting off course, others moving too slowly to be effective. The AI began its standard attack pattern, targeting what it perceived as the weakest ships. "What are they doing?" HFY asked from the observation deck. "Their formation is completely broken." But something strange was happening. Every time the AI moved to exploit a weakness, the targeted ships would shift position in unexpected ways. What looked like mistakes became opportunities. What appeared to be chaos had hidden purpose. 20 minutes, Commander Ryuk noted. "They've survived longer than expected." The human team remained focused, their hands moving across their simple controls with careful precision. Their ships continued their unusual dance, never quite where the AI expected them to be. 30 minutes, someone in the crowd announced. "They're still fighting." The AI's responses began to show signs of hesitation. Its perfect logical patterns struggled to predict the humans' seemingly illogical movements. Each time it developed a strategy, the humans would do something completely unexpected. 45 minutes, Tae-young whispered. "Our plan is working." The crowd grew silent as the battle continued. The humans' primitive controls and basic tactics were achieving what generations of advanced technology had failed to do. They were confusing the AI. 1 hour, Commander Ryuk announced, his voice carrying a note of surprise. "They have matched the previous record." Do-hyun's hands moved steadily across his controls, implementing the strategy they had practiced so many times. It was time to show everyone why being underestimated was sometimes the greatest advantage of all. John walked down the dark alley. It was very late at night. The alley was narrow and dirty. Trash was everywhere on the ground. Dim lights flickered overhead. John heard strange noises echoing off the alley walls. They sounded like whispers and footsteps. John kept walking quickly. He wanted to get out of the alley as fast as he could. He felt scared, but tried to act brave. Suddenly, a dark shape moved in the shadows ahead of him. John froze. His heart raced. He squinted his eyes to see better in the low light. The shape came closer to John. Soon, he could see it was a person wearing a long coat with a hood. The person's face was hidden in darkness. "Who's there?" John asked in a shaky voice. The figure did not answer. It kept coming closer, step by step. John started backing away. He looked for a way out, but the alley was a dead end behind him. The hooded person was only a few feet away now. It reached a hand into its coat pocket. John's mind raced with terrible thoughts of what it could be reaching for. Just then, a door opened in the alley wall next to John. Light spilled out. "Quick, in here," a woman's voice said urgently. Without thinking, John jumped through the doorway. The door slammed shut behind him. He heard the lock click. He was safe, at least for the moment. John looked around, breathing heavily. He was in a small storage room. The woman was standing nearby. She looked to be a few years older than John. She had a kind face. "You okay?" she asked. "You looked in trouble out there." "Yes, thank you," said John, still catching his breath. What is this place? And who are you? He had many questions about what just happened and who this woman was that rescued him. The night was only getting stranger, but he was glad to be away from whoever that was in the alley. He waited to hear the woman's reply and hopefully get some answers.